1923 Main Street.
Home of everything to do with Disney travel in style. We are your hosts.
I am Mike Braddock.
And I'm Amelia Braddock. And today, the best way to store t-shirts, sweatshirts, and hoodies. Folding, hanging, rolling, everything here.
Yeah, how you store those items can depend on a few things. So which way is best for each type of item? And you know, we all have lots of graphic tees and sweatshirts and hoodies, and you may or may not put a lot of attention into how you're storing these things at home. You know, you buy them for vacations in a lot of the cases, certainly the type of things we sell, but really 98% of the time, well, unless you are
Where do they reside?
A daily traveler, which kudos to you. Yeah, but you wear them at home. So you're going to have to store them somewhere, and hopefully that is not a heaping pile on the floor.
Hey, don't knock the heaping pile on the floor.
So
some people get tired.
Then you got your wrinkly, you know, some materials have that wrinkled look, but you might not want it on everything.
You just hang it up in the room while you're having a shower. Problem solved.
Yes. So when you're organizing your casual clothes at home, you've got to decide, hang it, fold it, or even roll it. And what is the best way for each one of these items, and why is it the best way? I mean, this is going to depend on, maybe you don't even have a closet. Maybe you only have drawers. So in that case, there are a couple of choices as well. But let's go through for each type, t-shirts, sweatshirts, and hoodies, what are the best ways to store these items at home and why? T-shirts, folding or hanging is based on how it's made to a big degree, but there is one recommended method.
Well, I have to say t-shirts are the lowest priority on my list of things to hang. If I'm going to hang something, it's going to be a lot of other things before it's a t-shirt.
Well,
only
that's
if I have
good.
All this extra space in my closet will some t-shirts get hung up.
Because for most t-shirts, folding is the best option anyway. And that's because hanging t-shirts, it can cause some issues for your shirts, especially if it's a favorite shirt of yours. Do you like the stretched out shirt with the droopy neckline and hanging extended shoulders?
I mean, if I've cut it open, sure. If I want my t-shirt to fit normally, not usually.
Yeah, you're going to get an unflattering shape if you hang a lot of t-shirts, especially if they're wet. So one thing we should say straight up front is when we're talking about all these things, for the record, do not hang them wet in your closet like that, or they definitely will stretch out. So
I wouldn't do any of these things wet.
Yeah, if you're going to hang something to dry, you want to do it on a laundry rack or something where it is made so that it doesn't unnaturally stretch out the garment. So they can be light, you know, almost dry, that's fine. But the heavier they are, obviously the more stretching they're going to get if they're hung. And if you put something wet in your drawer, well, you're going to get a moldy t-shirt out of it. You know, even when you're folding, there's the classic fold. And then if you work in a store, you'll be familiar with the classic t-shirt fold. I always think of Sheldon in one of the Big Bang Theory episodes when he's folding his laundry with that little contraption. And I'm sure anyone who's worked in a retail store knows that.
That's the t-shirt folder thing.
Then there's the
Don't
crazy...
you have one?
No, there's the KonMari fold I was reading about. It's almost like origami of t-shirts. So, and
I've seen that.
The reason they do it is it gets so tightly folded like a letter package, you can stand them up straight in a drawer. We're not going that advanced today.
I actually do like doing that though, because then you can see what all the options are. Like I've done that with pajamas, so you can see, you know, have them in their sets, see which ones are where, so you know.
That is one of the benefits
what
of that.
options you have.
That is one of the benefits. Yeah, as opposed to stacking it where you have to sort of go dig through.
Exactly.
Like
that's how it gets
pile.
messy.
And then if you are hanging t-shirts, if you really want to hang them, you have to use the right hangers. So what are the right hangers? Not the thin wire hangers.
Or if you're using the wire hangers, fold them over like the bottom part.
Even when you
like
do
you
that,
with pants.
Because I've done that, it will leave that thin little line straight across the middle of your shirt. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Yeah, it will.
I've literally never seen that before.
Because if you rotate them out quickly enough, it won't. But if something's sitting in there, like another consideration is it seasonal? So if it's your Christmas shirt and it's going to be sitting there for 11 months, you're going to have a line there when you take it out, a fold line. And I mean, it's not impossible to get out. It doesn't stretch it out in the same way that the shoulders and neck do, but it's something to consider. So usually those velvet or padded hangers, they'll prevent the stretching. Plastic hangers are okay. They're better than wire. Yeah, I know you like that little underneath part of a traditional hanger, not the wooden hangers that just have left and right wings.
Yeah.
Even some of those have a pant thing across the bottom.
I like the space effective.
But yeah, if drawer space is limited, you can use shelf dividers or storage bins when you're folding.
You always toss a packing cube in there.
Yeah, packing cube. Those are all good. So a couple of options there for t-shirts. Folding would be your top bet, but if you're going to hang them, follow those tips for sure. Sweatshirts now, getting a little heavier and a little bigger. Still, folding to save space is the best way to go, but hanging can work too.
I hang all of mine.
You hang all your sweatshirts?
I do not like. I will fold long sleeve tops, thinner sweaters, thicker long sleeves, but actual sweatshirts and hoodies, I hang.
Do you hang them for space or so you can see what they are, like rifling through them easier? Obviously, sweatshirts are bulkier than t-shirts, so they should be folded for that reason because they're heavier on a hanger.
It takes up way too much drawer space, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, they do. But they, they're thicker, so they stack well.
I just have a lot, is I think the problem.
But, hanging is practical. Here's what to remember. If you're going to fold them, lay them flat, fold them the arms inward, then, a typical fold into the body, a nice fold. If you're hanging them because you like the reasons you like, then obviously use a sturdy, wide-shouldered hanger. I have personally hung some of these things on plastic cheap hangers, and the arms start to fold in, and eventually they'll crack. So you want to have a good hanger. Cheap plastic hangers, don't use those.
Yes. I'm kind of thinking if you have an actual knit sweater, those are not the way to go. That will stretch out.
And, rolling is also good for sweatshirts. It saves space in a way. And
it
also,
is space effective.
Yeah, it's space effective because that's what you do when you travel. I mean, a lot of people, me included, roll everything in my little carry-on when I travel.
I roll when I travel. I have not rolled at home.
Well, I did show you before we started recording that I actually do roll at home. And I roll at home. That sounds bad. I roll my sweatshirts and t-shirts at home because the drawers, like some of them are in, they're really shallow. And so you can't really stack a lot. But when I roll them, first of all, I can see what they are easier. And they fit in the drawer nicer.
You just have to make sure that you have the exact right amount of space. Because otherwise, what if they unroll? What then?
Yeah, I never find that unrolling problem personally with anything.
Well,
I do
can't
a
relate,
super tight roll, so
I guess that might be the trick.
Sounds like we're talking about drugs in this episode. Talking about how we're rolling. All right, the final one, hoodies. So the hoodie recommendations generally are fold if you want to preserve the shape of the hoodie. It's a bit more complicated with the hood. You got to be a bit better.
I like the hood because you can just tuck everything in.
Yeah, you tuck it in. But
I would
hanging
fold
is a good
hoodie
option.
over folding a sweatshirt.
So experts will tell you folding is better for a hoodie. You hang hoodies. I do both.
I just have so many that they won't fit in a drawer.
Yeah, so that's for practical reasons.
Like anytime I go to a concert, a major event, like a dance competition, the hoodies are bought.
I like hanging for all of these things because like when you're in a shop, you can go through them easily and just see what's, which one is which, especially if some are the same color. And the more you get, the harder. Especially for t-shirts, like it's just easier to look at the front instead of sort of lifting a stack. But hoodies, folding is better generally for the garment remaining flat and all that. But hanging's certainly an option. They're pretty sturdy, so they're not going to droop and stretch the way a t-shirt will usually. But the hanger discussion from sweatshirts applies even more so here. Good, strong hangers, and don't hang them when they're wet. Definitely don't hang them when they're wet.
Yeah, unless you really like the oversized hoodie look.
Yeah, the long stretched oversized hoodie. Depends on
I've seen lots of people cut out the necks of hoodies as well now.
Cut out the necks, cut the hood off?
Cut off the hood or even just like cut down.
Oh, cut the V down?
Yeah, cut off the strings. Very popular.
So, and if it's a zip up hoodie, definitely zip it up because if you don't, it's probably going to fall off the hanger.
Yeah.
Now, rolling, we'll just touch on briefly. It is good. You do it when you're traveling. So for t-shirts, it makes it easier to see them in a drawer, and it stops any sort of deep creases at all. That's what's good about rolling when you travel, even for dress clothes. Sweatshirts, if they're thinner, it's a lot easier, but you can roll pretty tight and keep them compact. Same goes for hoodies. The hood makes it harder, so you will need a deeper drawer or space.
See, the rolling at home? I can't get on board with that.
The only time I roll is because the drawers are small. They're very
Okay.
shallow, right? The ones I showed you here. And that one dresser I have, the stacking just doesn't make sense. Because, when you stack and you pull the drawer open and one gets caught and it goes, that doesn't happen when they're rolled.
I don't use drawers.
Yeah, because your room layout is different. You have mostly cupboards and
I
closets.
have one drawer, and it's for my pajamas.
Yeah, and it's a mess.
Okay.
Exactly what happens. You pull the drawer open, all the stuff falls behind it because it's over.
No comment.
It's overcrowded. But yeah, and always be careful with wet items. Before you hang or roll or do anything, make sure the items are dry, whether it's in the dryer, whether it's on a drying rack if you don't want it to shrink. Sometimes you do want it to shrink.
But I just like to save rolling for the magic of packing, because it's like, oh, wow, look at how big this stack of stuff is, when I fold it. Oh my goodness, look how magically it all fits in my suitcase because now I've rolled it.
Well, you should do a magic rolling.
It's a gift to yourself.
Travel packing video.
I have.
Okay. Maybe we'll post one someday if we can.
I don't know about that.
You weren't doing it for prime time. All right, there you have it. The best ways to store your cherished graphic travel tees at home, sweatshirts and hoodies, and what not to do and what to be aware of. We hope you've liked this episode, found it useful. As always, follow along on social media at 1923 Main Street. Visit the shop at 1923mainstreet.com. We will see you again next week and have a magical day.
Bye-bye.